Hello, I'm Charlie, and, yeah, you may know me for, creating Weaving Wonder and, well, a good portion of Weaving Wonder. I think Alyssa did a little bit more with it. But generally, I created the funny spider, and, yeah, so I saw the request on, in one of the channels a while back for somebody to make a Blazic kicking content style video using, or just generally with bathroom break included. So I'm just going to do that because no one else will, and I generally want to give my thoughts on the tier while, you know, I guess expressing my voice, even though my voice is completely garbage, but whatever. Um, So yeah, eventually I'll try and fit this into a video of some kind and go from there. So so yeah, this tier is uh I'm not sure if I'm gonna upload this to YouTube or anything. So I'm just going to straight out come out and say CU is a kind of a theorymon tier. It's full of Pokemon that people have come up with in a singular form. They had a set amount of time to get them in, and they were balanced by some of the tier leaders as they were being filtered in. So, for example, one of the Pokemon, Salazzle, was completely redesigned from being big buff lizard thing to Femboy Boy Toy, um, versus like Velt, who got a bit of a overhaul recently due to how it just how it works. So yeah, CU is just full of different Pokemon that are all, they're just all fan made. It's all Fakemon. So I'm just gonna go in alphabetical order here and like just talk about them on the CU chart. You can find it on the other meadows splitter. I'm not gonna say splitter, just Showdown server. I mean it hosts a couple other meadows, but pun intended. But or unintended, I don't know. But generally it hosts different tiers, and one of them is CU, which is it's like Capmon but completely unhinged. So let's start with the first one, which is one of the more disappointing ones in the tier, but I'm happy with it honestly, and like how it plays outside of just yeah. And that is Archelaos. Sorry if I butcher any of these names. I don't really talk about them outside of, just Discord. So Archelaos is a um it none of its stats are over 100, which is something that is immediately apparent. It has pretty okay physical bulk, not okay special bulk, but for what it does, I don't think it's going to really need the special bulk. If you play it right, that is, because a lot of the special attackers in the tier have access to Air Slash, and you don't want Archelaos being in on Air Slash since it's a fighting bug and everything. Uh, so it does have a couple of traits going for it, though. First of all, it has Victory Dance, which, if you don't know, that's Quiver Dance for physical attackers, and it is exclusive to Lilligant Hisui, and it is one of the best moves. Like that is its defining move that he uses. It clicks Victory Dance a couple times and then sweeps. Archelaos is very similar to where it has Victory Dance, but it also has Multi-Scale, which is it's fucking ballistic on this type of Pokemon. Multi-Scale is, you take damage at full HP from an attack, and the attack's damage is halved, meaning that you could survive a bunch of stuff that you probably shouldn't survive, and then proceed to outspeed the person after that. There's a couple things holding back Archelaos from, this area in the spotlight. It does have a couple of tools at its disposal to really deal with some Pokemon. Um, I think a good couple of examples are the fact that it has like Ice Punch to deal with Cactorimba, which completely ignores its boost, along with Earthquake to deal with Pikumiku. Um, but personally, I just run Drain Punch and then I run something to deal with Marshana, which is usually people's go-to wall in this tier, and that would be Thunder Punch because its fourth move and probably the other thing that is going for it is Hoplon and its ability to switch into a physical attacker and just parry the move, eat up some HP from it actually, and also get an HP recovery from leftovers, and hopefully get back into multi-scale range, which is really hard to do because of just how rounding works. I have yet to optimize a Hoplon Arcalos set, but yeah, basically it uses a combination of Hoplon and Drain Punch to stay healthy, Thunder Punch to hit flying types, along with um, Drain Punch or not Drain Punch and yeah, it has Drain Punch, yeah, and Marshana for Thunder Punch. So yeah, that's basically just how you play it. It also has Swarm and Battle Armor, but I feel like those are more filler for the real meat, which is multi-scale. Um, I could see it being used as a pivot if the speed tier was at average 50, but it isn't. The average speed tier it isn't 50. It's I think theorized to be around 233. Like that is an actual number, but like the actual speed tier would be like base 65. It's a pretty weird tier, honestly. It's around as slow as Gen 2 or Gen 1, but it also has the it's it also has some of the more modern kinks to tiers like abilities and whatnot. It's a really interesting tier. So next up is Aegislash Alaria, which is this Pokemon's gone through a couple of revisions. Well, I wanted it to go through a couple of revisions really. I think right now it's in a good place. Um, Aegislash Alaria is one of the more how do I put this? Its design is really cool. Um, it's like a from what I can tell, it's kind of like a swamp-bound haunted trident with a net, and it uses the net to like catch people, and then it goes in the trident form and just goes ham. At least that's how I interpreted it. I personally have a really creative mind and interpret stuff how it probably shouldn't be interpreted. So yeah, Aegislash. This thing is commonly used as kind of how people use Aegislash normally, where it usually runs Protect and Toxic and just kind of a fucking nuisance, and then it occasionally whips out moves like Power Whip and Wave Strident, and it has close combat, which is really really good. Um, yeah, it also has Stone Edge, but I'm not really seeing like rock type moves aren't really good in this tier unless you're facing like one Pokemon and you're trying to look out for that Pokemon. Which I could see Aegislash being scared of that Pokemon. I'll get to that Pokemon. um, but yeah, Aegislash is just a fucking terror. Um, it's really good at countering some of the tier's bigger threats like Salamence, Alaria, and uh, I would say Titanoso, maybe. I'm not too familiar with how Aegislash really functions in the tier. I've just fought up against it a couple times, and I know that you could just click Air Slash or Tempest Arrow on it, and it just kind of dies. So yeah, but it's a fucking nuisance until it dies because of its 120 defenses, its 90 speed, and its 60 HP. Of course, until it transforms after clicking Wave Strident, which in that case, holy fucking shit. What the hell? 130 attack with 80 speed? It legitimately gets a speed drop whenever it transforms, but it also gets the massive attack buff, which is honestly crazy to think about, but I don't know. I think it's weird. I personally think that they should, you know, drop its defenses by 55 or by 5 and then invest that back into speed so then they're the same speed, just to make it consistent or something because of how jank the Pokemon is. Um so yeah, that's Age slash it. It's kind of a stall breaker. It has Encore, it has Toxic, it has does it have Leech Seed? It does not have Leech Seed, which I find really weird due to just lore reasons, I guess. I mean, it lives in a swamp, leeches and whatnot, but oh well. Yeah, it also has some special coverage, but its special attack is not as high as physical, and yeah, its best water type move is Surf. It doesn't have Hydro Pump or anything, so it can't just spew out Hydro Pumps, which is probably good for the tier. We don't really have a Pokemon that just spams Hydro Pumps. Next up is Ampharay, which is a very, very curious mon. Ampharay is kind of there's two dark poisons in the tier, and Ampharay is one of them. The other one being my own creation, but I'll get to them later. Um, Ampharay is a setup sweeper through and through. It could also function as a pivot if you're really feeling jazzy, but its main purpose is to click Sword Stance and then fucking delete people with Gunk Shot, Sucker Punch, and like out of knockoff, Ice Punch, Fire Punch. I believe has Thunder Punch. Has Tongue Lashing. I do not know what Tongue Lashing does, but I'm pretty sure it's Fire Lash. But Lash, Tongue Lashing. Yeah, it's Fire Lash with Poison, which is always good to have, I guess. But I guess the immediate power of Gunk Shot is too enticing for me to, pick up that move. I guess it'd make more sense to be on Salazzle due to just how Salazzle works, but I'll get to Salazzle. God, I'm saying all these different things. I'll get to that. Yeah, so yeah, it has Poison Touch to threaten people. It has Pursuit and Poison Touch, meaning that it could possibly try and Pursuit Trap, but Pursuit hasn't really been used in the tier much, which I kind of find weird. Which is I don't know. I just find it really weird because there's only one or two things that are like weak to Pursuit, and a lot of the time, a lot of the tier is trying to spam knockoff and try and get items off, while also trying to counter the three poison healers. Good God, this tier's great. um, yeah, it has Substitute, it has Taunt, it can spam down Toxic Spikes, it can Toxic you. It's just, I feel like it's being slept on, but just with how unbulky it is, I don't really feel like it has the room to be, just thrown out there. Like, you need to invest in this thing. It's kind of like Salazzle, but a little less. Next up is Arenchant, I think it's named. Archanchant? I don't know how to pronounce it. The Angel, I'm just gonna call it the Angel. The Angel here has Gale Wings and has Victory Star. It also has a 100 base power flying move called Tempest Arrow. That's a physical move. This thing's a physical attacker, by the way, and it has a high crit chance, and that's basically its thing. Now, on paper, this sounds really good, and then you realize this thing also has triple arrows, which is one of the most blatantly powerful moves in the game. If you don't know what triple arrows does, it has an increased crit rate. It has a 50% chance to drop the opponent's defense by one stage, and it has a 30% flinch chance, which is it's kind of a big deal. So yeah, if you're inconfident about what to do, you either spam Tempest Arrow or Triple Arrows, and you don't use Play Rough because half of the tier is fucking Steel types, and you really do not want to see Kupooch. Like, you really do not want to see Kupooch. It has Swords Dance. It has a bunch of moves like Tailwind and Roost. I believe it has Roost. Yeah, it has Roost. It has defog, which is really good. Due to Gale Wings. It has Air Slash if you want to be that person. Uh, let's see. It has yeah, it has a lot of support moves, and it also has a bit of an opportunity to set up and spam triple arrows. But honestly, uh, both sets work. Just how frail the poke. It has 60 defense, and the tier has Salamence. So yeah, you kind of have to watch out for Salamence. But again, triple arrows exist. Oh, and it's also the fastest Healing Wish user. So if you want to try and use Healing Wish, this is the Pokemon for you. Um, yeah, Victory Star for offensive sets, Gale Wings for support, and then I guess Cloud9 if you really hate like what um Soil Links Sand maybe I don't know. Next up is that's Child. Next up is Barb Barbarado. Okay, so it has Water Absorb. It it is one of the tier's scariest fucking Pokemon. Mainly outside of just the fact that it exists, it is the most defensive pivot you're gonna get out of a defensive pivot. It is able to stop a water spam, which is kind of a bit common due to Scald being on like 3 Pokemon, and another Pokemon having Flip Turn, being that of Mershana, but Mershana kind of ignores Water Absorb, so you're fucked either way. But yeah, Barbarado, um, it has it has some really good physical coverage. It has Spiny Shield. It has a priority grass move that decreases the opponent's offensive stats, which is fucking insane because this thing has 80 in its defenses and 150 as an HP. I'm not sure where it is on the bulk tier, which is kind of I guess that's a thing. But yeah, I'm not sure where it's on the bulk tier, but I know that's like extra drill shit right there. Where like it doesn't look bulky, but it kind of is. But yeah, it has some really interesting stabs. It's able to completely counter uh, Electrocampus pivot sets, and like the only thing that Electrocampus can do is click what Rapid Spin. The only thing that I can't or that this thing fears from Electrocampus is Icy Wind, which a yes it does have Icy Wind, and b it basically just two hits KO. It 2-hit KOs. And it's going to be consistent 2-hit KO because once you drop this thing's speed tier down, Electric Campus is faster and will outspeed and will kill you unless you're running like what Choice Scarf. I've only seen that set once, and that was like early on. So yeah, Barbarosso, kind of an E-camp counter, but kind of not just due to the consistency of it. Yeah, it also has spikes. It has spiky shield. It has a bunch of utility. It can heal itself with synthesis. Of course, it has U-turn. It has roar, which is I kind of feel like no, that wouldn't be good in this tier. I guess curse if you want to set up, but that doesn't make sense. Um, yeah, I think that's it for this Pokemon. Like, it has Poison Jab and Iron Head, so you can hit fairies. It's this is a pretty cool Pokemon. And then Bonner. Bonner. Oh boy. Um, Bonner is kind of in a weird spot because it has a on paper it has great defensive typing, but um, and like it has some really good moves, and it thematically is just a really good Pokemon, right? Um, and this is kind of supposed to be the other half of Brute Bonnet, that eventually became Amoonguss. Other mushroom, and it kind of more leans on the animalistic side of it. But yeah, Bonner is strange. Mainly because it seems to be themed around putting the opponent to sleep, but for I believe balance decisions or whatnot, it does not have Spore. It is not a Spore. It has some good defensive profiles and probably has some of the best defensive especially defensive bulk in the tier. But then again, you're running against Weaving Wonder and you're running against Silzilla. So I don't really see Bonner being that big of a special wall, especially due to its typing, which, gets blasted by Kupooch. Um, I mean, it's by Kupooch, by Salamence, by whoever runs consistent Steel Stab, basically, and I guess Amphary too. But that's two of those are, three of those are, consistent physical attackers, and I think Kupooch is the only one that consistently runs a special set. So yeah, Bonner is it's just kind of in a weird spot, but there's a lot of potential in it. There's Draco Meteor, there's Moonblast. It has a bunch of good defensive moves, notably Stab Drain Kiss or Draining Kiss, which is one of the best moves just ever. Period. Like the amount it recovers for how much damage you do is, frankly, something that you do not want to pass up on. Has Psychic and Shadow Ball, but that doesn't make sense much. Has Sleep Powder, which, uh, okay, cool. That's cool. Uh, yes, let's see. It has Taunt, it has Substitute, but most notably, it has Snap Trap, meaning that it can trap or it can use Snap Trap on somebody, hope that I can't break them, put them to sleep, and then begins chipping them down with bad dreams, which is kind of the other interesting part of this Pokemon. It has bad dreams as an ability, or it's hidden ability, but it's still an ability, and I kind of see it on like Darkrai. I kind of like see it working on Darkrai or like a really defensive Pokemon. But this Pokemon's typing just doesn't make it. It makes it really hard to be defensive in this tier. So yeah, that's enough about Bonner. Kind of a grain of salt there. I'm sorry. But next up is a Pokemon that I really fucking love, and that's Cacturemba. Cacturemba is one of the most slept on Pokemon in this tier. I keep seeing it used less and less in favor of like other grass types or other fairy types. No, you need to use this Pokemon. It has some great defensive utility. It has some great offensive utility. It's fucking Clefable. This thing is fucking Clefable. And it even has the grass type in a tier where grass Pokemon are really powerful. I mean, this Pokemon has some very glaring weaknesses, being that of the bird. I'll get to the bird, and poison types. But generally, Cacturemba is just a really fucking strong Pokemon. Has a lot of defensive utility. It has Cotton Guard, which I haven't used Cotton Guard in this Pokemon, but if it got Body Press, I'd probably use a Cotton Guard set. It has Leech Seed. It has Toxic. If you've seen Celesteela run a stall set, I basically just run a stall set similar to Celesteela, where it's like Toxic, U-turn, or not U-turn, Toxic, Leech Seed, Giga Drain, and some other fourth move. I don't really run Protect on this Pokemon, which is really weird. Probably because I appreciate the Grass Stab on this Pokemon more and more as I use it. It is unable to counter Salamence, but oh boy. Let's see. You can switch into Lediary. You can switch into Arcalos. You can switch into a lot of different fucking Pokemon that you set up moves. Just not Salazzle. You can't switch into Salazzle, which kind of sucks because Salazzle is just really fucking cool. Then again, there's other Pokemon that do Salazzle dirty more, and that's probably like I don't know. Mershana, if it isn't running Ability Shield, and if it is, probably like I don't know. I don't know who counters Salazzle, but I'll get to Salazzle. Cacturemba. It has knockoff. It has just oh boy, it has spikes. It has Spiky Shield. A lot of Pokemon in this tier have Spiky Shield, so beware of that. Yeah, it has Synthesis if it needs to heal. It has Sucker Punch. It has just consistent stab all around. It doesn't have Moonblast. which is kind of scary, but I don't really care much. It has Draining Kiss. It I already talked about Draining Kiss. It has Dazzling Gleam, which is probably its more consistent fairy stat, but I feel like Draining Kiss is just too powerful to on this Pokemon to take up due to its massive fucking bulk. Um, yeah, this Pokemon's just generally a wall, and it has Unaware. For I guess niche purposes, you could run Sand Force or Water Absorb so you can deal with Pokemon like I don't know, Roshana, I guess, for Water Absorb. Then again, you need to run Ability Shield to make that work. Uh, yeah, Cactarimba switches well into Electrocampus. You know, Electrocampuses that aren't running Icy Wind. Um, it switches well into, I guess, it almost switches into Aegislash, but Leech Seed doesn't hit it, so that sucks. Um, yeah, let's see. It switches into Ceramimic almost. If you're running a specially defensive set, I think it could switch into Ceramimic and then start selling it out. Um, yeah, let's see. It switches into Dracocade theoretically if it isn't running, poison, which it is. So don't switch into Dracocade. uh, yeah, its unaware ability basically just allows it to switch into Pokemon that it probably shouldn't be able to switch into. Uh, yeah, let's see. Trying to look here. I guess it can switch into Torsties, but that Pokemon is passive enough and has Rapid Spin, so I wouldn't count on it until you know what set it's running. Because if it's a fully offensive set, then yeah, just switch bitch in. It's not running Rapid Spin. Just Leech Seed it away. You can't exactly Toxic it, but yeah, it's more of a defensive pivot that allows, I guess, some utility to the team. Oh, and else has aromatherapy, which is incredibly, rare in this team. Not a lot of teams run, uh, status healing moves due to how many poison healers are around. But if you're not running a poison healer, I'd recommend that. Um, next up is the only C Uber Pokemon due to the fact that it's fucking glitched. Uh, the one, the only, the cartridge. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a bird. Its ability is really fucking complex. I barely understand it, but basically, if all four of your moves are a different type, it's able to it's able to do a thing where it does more damage. And if you have all four of the same type of move in your, fucking hand, or not hand, I guess your move set. If you have four of the same move, the first move in your move slots will be used automatically on Switch In, which is really where this Pokemon became problematic because it had Headlong Rush and was able to switch in and just fucking delete people. This thing was a menace. It was like if Landorus took crack and then got methamphetamine problems. This thing is probably on meth. I'm not sure where it is in terms of usability right now, but as of right now, it's banned from play because of just how fucking broken it is, and it is physically broken. Its stacked ability or stacked deck ability just doesn't work. I've made a couple of various sets for this Pokemon, or at least theoretical ones. My favorite one was a double-edged setup set where you switched in and then it automatically used Substitute and then you just clicked focus energy and work up until you felt like, oh, okay, I can click double edge now, and then you click up double edge and kill everything besides some of the ghost types and steel types. And then again, what are the steel types going to do? You're flying ground like Salamence can't do shit against you. So besides what Will-O-Wisp, I think Salamence is Will-O-Wisp. So yeah, that's the only Uber in the tier. We can't use that thing. Ceramimic is next. It is one of the funnier Pokemon. I mean, design-wise, it's super silly. It's a pot that has a little ghosty guy inside of it, and he has an eyeball, and he's like one of those classical mimic things, like Gimmighoul, but it's much more oriented around just how it's a pot and everything, and pots are fragile, and yeah, it's two moves being Shatter and Patchwork, kind of play around just how this Pokemon is kind of in universe works, along with Shattering Form. So yeah, for everybody who doesn't know, Shattering Form, basically, if you hit the Pokemon with a physical contact move, its defense goes down by 1, but it also puts up a spike. Patchwork, uh, or Shatter, is a 120 base power special ground move, which is fucking insane. Oh my god. It's able to blast a lot of stuff for unexpected amounts of damage, and then just leave. Sorry that I'm cursing so much. It's kind of just habit. But yeah, it's able to blast people with Shatter, and then heal up with Patchwork, which, yeah, sure, it only heals 1/3 of your health, but it's also healing any defense damage things that you have. So, yeah, you could just Patchwork, and Patchwork, and Patchwork. At least if you get the opportunity, because it's a ground type in a tier full of grass and water types, and it's not going to go well. It has some definite flaws, being that it's kind of slow, but then again, that kind of works for it because then it can get Shatter off before the defense drop, really hits it and it's unable to do things. And then you just switch it out. Then there's Pursuit, though nobody's running Pursuit, so that's not a thing you should worry about. I've seen a lot of sets. It has some really good coverage. It has Power Gem for the bird. It has Giga Drain. It has Signal Beam, I guess, if you want to run that. Scorching Sands, if you don't want to use Shatter. Almost Earth Power. I'm not sure why you're going to use Earth Power, because Shatter is just so much cooler and does so much more damage. It has Trick. It has Spikes. It's just so cool. This thing is so cool. I love it. Oh, and it also has Magic Go, which is really, really good. So yeah, that's enough for Saran Mimic. It has offensive capabilities, it has defensive capabilities. It can't really stall you out, but it's gonna hit hard and it's gonna set up stuff. So yeah, that's kind of its thing. And then we have Chemicalism. This thing is a complete anomaly because its stats look completely insane until you realize it has 36 HP and emergency exit. So this thing is going to take a lot of damage and then leave. Um, oh god, this Pokemon, man. Uh, okay, I'm gonna go over the basics here. Chemicalism, this thing right here, it has some of the best attack, special attack, and speed in the tier. Uh, with its only real problem being that of emergency exit, but don't worry, you can take advantage of emergency exit with Chloroblast and Steel Beam. Yeah, there's multiple Steel Beam users in the tier, and it immediately leaves upon using those moves and can use it to pivot while also, devastating its own well-being in the process. If you run Citrus Berry and make sure the hazards aren't on the field, you can hypothetically use Steel Beam and Chloroblast 3 times instead of 2. Or if you run a leftover set, which I think is probably smarter because then you could run something like Giga Drain and Fire Blast if you're feeling lucky. Um, but yeah, this Pokemon is uh, it's really unique. It has a lot of defensive utility, despite just it not being a defensive Pokemon. But due to just how fast it is, it's able to get away with it because people think, oh, I can go passive on this guy, and then they get hit with Leech Seed or Defog, and they're like, oh fucking shit. Oh, and it's also the fastest Haze user in a tier, which is kind of a big deal because setup sweepers are a problem. You could run Focus Sash and then no, wait, no, Focus Sash doesn't help here because then you get blasted into the sash, and then you leave because of emergency exit. So I don't know, that kind of sucks. I guess you could use this guy against Mershana, but Mershana is gonna hit you with Air Slash and it's gonna do a lot of damage. So yeah. You have a bunch of different spike variations. You have Strength Sap, which I didn't realize this guy had until now. I have Fairy Stab and Strange Stream, and have Iron Head Yeah, just a bunch of offensive moves, lots of fire, lots of steel, lots of grass, and a little bit of stuff like rock slide and stone edge thrown in there. Superpower, which is interesting because it's superpower. Ground stab, it's kind of mandatory in this tier. Uh, just every Pokemon they must have Earthquake or Earth Power, and that's it. That's that's how it goes. Um, yeah, so okay, so that's Chemicalism. It's really fast and it hits really hard and it has some really good. Oh yeah, and it has Switcheroo. It has some really good defensive utility. Um, and that's what it does. It's basically just Glass Cannon that uses its Glass Cannon status to occasionally trick people into being a Stallmon, or not Stallmon. It's just being a weird Whimsicott thing. I'm gonna skip over Klaku because we get to one of the tier's only, Titans. This thing is, I have discussed this with with one person really, but mainly this thing is the Landers of this fucking tier. The one, the only, the Kupooch or Kupach. I think it's Kupach. Uh, take a sip of my coffee before this. Um, Kupooch is it's Landorus. It has Technician and it has Magic Guard. Now, those are two abilities that Pokemon really like having. And then you look at its moveset. It consists of Brave Bird, Defog, Drill Run, Dual Wing Beat, Encore. It doesn't really use Facade or Steel Beam because or not Steel Beam, or Flash Cannon because it has better options. It has Gear Grind, Technician, Gear Grind. And it gets worse the more you look at this thing's moveset. It has Hurricane for, like, what, if you want to run funny things. It has Hyper Voice, I guess. Iron Defense against. I guess it has Perish Song, but I guess it's going to use that and then leave, and then hopefully switch in Circuit, and then the opponent is dumb enough to be like, oh. But yeah, you can use Perish Song to force a switch. It has Protect. It has Psychic and Psyshock, which is really weird. Rest, Roar, Roost, Shift Gear, Shift Gear, Shift Gear, Gear Grind with Dual Wing Beat. Yeah, this guy's nasty. This thing is nasty, and that's if you're running a Technician set because oh my god, okay, it has spikes, cool, but then it has Steel Beam, Magic Guard Steel Beam. Where did that come from? Yeah, immediately this thing immediately just took the tier by the throat and then slammed it into the ground. Uh, I believe it actually got nerfed in the first patch. If not, then that would be really funny. Oh yeah, no, it lost. Wait, no, no, it didn't get nerfed. Oh my gosh, it didn't get nerfed. That is Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Okay. This thing is untouched since the beginning of the tier and is one of the tier's best Pokemon. It has, workable attack stats. It has one of the best speed tiers. It has really good defensive stats for, being Steel Flying. 102 HP, 70 defense, 85 special defense. That's fine and dandy until you realize this thing, can recover on you. It has Roost. It also has Tailwind, if you want to do that. It has both U-Turn and Volt Switch, along with Thunderbolt and Thunderwave, if you want to, be an asshole to everybody. It has Air Slash, if you really want to be a Jirachi clone, but, with a Jirachi clone with Stab and the ability to miss. Indoor, I guess, and the other two moves don't really matter unless you're, wanting to really kill somebody with Steel Beam. So yeah, this Pokemon does a lot with what it has, and it's really scary for the tier. And yeah, honestly, I think Swellow was a really good, idea for the sprite because while yes, the Pokemon itself, the design wise, isn't very intimidating, the sprite that's used in Showdown is honestly it's one of the coolest Pokemon and is known like this feels like what Swellow should be doing. kind of, or at least a grayscale version of Swellow. Yeah, just Kupooch is great. You can run so many sets on it, like Life Orb, Magic Guard, Steel Beam. You could run Leftovers, Magic Guard, and then run a defensive utility set, and it can take hits because just its defensive profile in the tier. It's so good. It is so good, and so much you could run on it. You could run a setup like multiple setup sweats. You can run Choice Band, Choice Scarf if you're really feeling like outspeeding everything, and you could run Choice Specs if you're feeling ballistic. Not sure why you'd run Choice Specs though, because Life Orb and everything. Like what? So you could hit Ardor with Hyper Voice. Yeah, I guess for boosted or I guess so you could open up your set to running like I don't think it has Trick, which would Trick would basically ban this thing immediately. If it had Trick, it could trick you with Choice Scarf, and then oh no. Anyway, oh god, yeah, Kupooch is the best. I love Kupooch so much. And it's one of the tier's best Pokemon. There is no competition with that. And then we had originally one of the best Pokemon in the tier. It got nerfed hard immediately because of just how strong Fighting Stab is in this tier. With the amount, it hits almost everything. Uh, Besides the Fairy types, which are already threatened by Steel types. So yeah, Kupooch kind of, or Trek already kind of fit into teams, and then it kind of made it worse. So yeah, it got nerfed on day one, or not, or kind of the day one patch. I'm gonna call it the day one patch. It got nerfed. It lost 5 attack, meaning that it can't just kill things, and it also lost one of its greatest resources, being that of Mach Punch. Sad. Anyway, so Trek, it's basically your tier's offensive ice type. It's your defensive ice, or not defensive ice type. God, please no more defensive ice types. It is your tier's preferred version of a. I guess it's your tier's preferred variant of our Lord and Savior, the Weavile. It's basically this tier's Weavile. It can run Band, it can run Life Orb, and then be a sweeper. Its main thing is it's able to punch holes in teams with an incredibly powerful Twix Pendant attack. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be pronounced as, but basically it uses a Trident or Sword to hit the opponent twice, and it also has Sharpness. There's a lot of multi-hit moves in this tier, and yeah, Sharpness Twix Pendant is probably the strongest ice type move in the tier, and frankly one of the only ones. It also has Sacred Sword, which is really hard to switch into because it's boosted by Sharpness, and it also has Swords Dance. It's really fast. It's kind of the opposite of Ampharay, where Ampharay has a really good defensive typing. Trek does not. And while Ampharay has a lot of utility, Trek also does not, but it makes up for it with being an offensive powerhouse, nonetheless. That also has Swords Dance and also has a very similar speed tier, but again, Ampharay is faster, so yeah, it's just a really good Pokemon. It also has Knockoff, if you want to be annoying. X Scissor, I guess you want Bug Stab, question mark. Flip Turn if you're willing to be a pivot. You can run Mirror Armor, I guess, and run a pivot set, or Hustle if you want to miss every attack ever, period. But yeah, this Pokemon is just really hard to switch into, and it's really funny. It has earned the nickname of 38.4 due to a glitched out PowerPoint thing involving Twix Pendant and how it technically had 38.4 PP or PowerPoints. So instead of it's now 24, which I guess was a nerf, but then again, it's Trek, so whatever. Crocoon and its pre-evolution core whip, which you shouldn't use. Crocoon, it has Tough Claws and it has Headlong Rush, along with First Impression, and it's slow, but it's kind of slow in the same way as the Pokemon is modeled after, Crawdaunt, which it's Crawdaunt. I feel like this is supposed to be like a regional convergent version of Crawdaunt, where it's more of it's a Crawdad with a whip. That's basically what it does. It whips people really hard with Headlong Rush, and it instantly KOs them with its massive attack stat. The only problem is it isn't very fast, and it is incredibly not bulky. So you can't really. Yeah, I think the best team format that I've seen this used on, which was something that had me legitimately sweating playing against it, was a gravity format. Somebody decided to use gravity with this thing, and I was legitimately sweating because this thing could KO like a good portion of my team if gravity was turned on. Like Goopooch, gone. Uh, the other flying steels are gone. Archant, gone. Cartridge, I guess, is gone. Yeah, just all the flying types. Legendary, gone. You can't switch in Legendary to set up because of that. Mershana takes neutral damage and therefore is gone. Though they can retaliate with an air slash and probably just KO outright. Uh, yeah, you can't switch a flying type into this guy, and not a lot resist ground stab. So yeah, you just kind of die if this guy comes in and starts spamming headlong rush. Unless you like outspeed. Then again, though, this guy with Tailwind support is probably one of the scariest Pokemon that's here. It just needs to get the attacks off. Um, Otherwise, it's not very strong. Otherwise, I mean, like, I don't really see what else it do. Like, okay, it has Fell Stinger, but it wants to run Choice Band for maximum power. So, what, you're going to be spamming Fell Stinger with Choice Band? No. Knockoff is really powerful in this Pokemon. First impression is 2, but there's not a lot of things where, like, Bug Stab comes in handy. I guess on Aegislash, it comes in handy, but yeah, okay. That's Shrimpax for Evo. Crystalier. I love this thing. This thing is little scrunkly baby. I love it. Yes, I will talk about Tumbler Blurbos with this thing because it is one of the I'm I'm gonna call it the underdog of the tier because it has the worst defensive typing and has the best defensive stats. Almost. Oh wait, no, it's straight up king of the bulk tier. But yeah, this thing sits there and it takes attacks, and it sets up stuff, and it has a version of Protect that sets up the most annoying version of Stealth Rocks to ever exist. Now using the way more potent Ice type as its base, which is really scary. So yeah, Crystalier is Crystalier, and it's bulky. It has the worst defensive type in the tier, but who cares? Or frankly, ever. Ice and Rock, you do not want a Pokemon with Ice and Rock as its defensive typings. But its utility is near unmatched. It has, while it can also heal itself, it has access to Stealth Rocks, Ice Stealth Rocks in the form of Soul Shards. Um, it has Diamond Storm, which is a physical move, but I honestly just run Power Gem and a. Oh wait, it has Ice Spinner, so you could get rid of Terrain if that ever happens. It won't. Icicle Spear, yeah. Alyssa tried to, convince people that this is a lead, but it also has Filter, so you could also use that to filter things, I guess. Um, there's a lot you could do with Crystalier. I think Alyssa designed it as a lead, but I prefer to use it later game whenever things like Koro Trek are usually expelled from the game because of just how I played it, and I got the Ice Stab in, I got rid of Koro Trek, and now I can use Crystalier to set up a bunch of hazards and then begin setting up. But that's honestly just me. It says more about me. I'm really biased towards this thing. Oh, and it has Explosion, if you want to do that, and Magic Coat, screens, Rapid Spin. I actually forgot to talk about more of the utility here. It has Hail, if you want to run a Hail team, in this day and age. Yeah, it's just a magic ice mirror that kind of looks like a giant crystal. It's really cool. I like it. Dracocade. I have not used this thing much, but I've heard it's really strong. Um, yeah, now that water types are in the tier and you need something to defend against the likes of Shrimpact, Dracocade has kind of entered the fray. It has the same typing as another Pokemon that involves, well, poisons and is a dragon type, and that's Circuit, but I'll get to Circuit. Um, I'm gonna get to a lot of Pokemon. This Pokemon does a lot of things at once. It's kind of a bruiser in this tier. It does bruiser things. It does damage, and it takes a lot of hits, and it also has utility and mortal spin and having toxic spikes and whatnot. It has a lot of moves. It clicks Mega Horn, it clicks Gunk Shot, it hits Outrage occasionally. It's just really fat. I really like it. Originally, this thing was going to have like a stat total similar to a box legendary, but it doesn't, which is honestly kind of fine because people really like this. It seems. I'm not a big fan of it, but if other people like it, I'm perfectly fine with it, man. I guess it's more stuff for me to just kill with Draining Kiss or whatnot. So yeah, I'm not really a big expert in Dracocade, but I've heard it's good. Driftbone Malaria is kind of different from Zeppelin because it can run a defensive set while also having different utility compared to, you know, Alarian Zeppelin. So yeah, Driftblim it's basically just Driftblim, but it can run Eviolite and it has better defensive typing. And that's really good in this tier, somehow. I mean, it has a niche, despite being a child. Um, Next up is oh my god, the Electro Campuses. Okay, Electro Campus, female. It has Poison Heal and uh yeah, it's a Poison Heal pivot and it has a bunch of different moves that inflict statuses as a secondary effect. Which means that if you want to really mess up Electro Campus user, run something with Covert Cloak and then just not tell them it has Covert Cloak, and then they're trying to do shit like Scald you, and then yeah, this thing basically falls apart if opponent has Covert Cloak, but it has other moves that benefit that. Yeah, let's see. It has two pivoting moves in Flip Turn and Full Switch. It has a really unique defensive profile, being the only electric type in the tier, along with having Electric Stab. It also has Discharge as its main Electric Stab instead of Thunderbolt, which sounds interesting until you realize this guy's other ability in its male form. I'll get to its male form, Lord and Savior Mpreg, or Mpreg, male pregnancy. I don't know. Uh, yeah, Rapid Spin has Shadow Ball for some reason. I don't know why it has Shadow Ball. Disable has yeah, this thing has a lot of utility moves, and it's really really cool. Um, its move pool doesn't really make sense until you look at its other form, but yeah, its base form has Poison Heal and has really unique defensive profile. It can take on the likes of Kupooch, and which is a really scary Pokemon in the tier, and I've already talked about it a bit. And yeah, it's just a really cool mon, and honestly, I really like it. It reminds me of something from Cap. I'm gonna pull that up. I forgot its name, but it is a really really fat shrimp electric water. It's somewhere around here. I pulled up the Cap list, by the way. This is like just me narrating my own. There we go. Krillowatt. I love Krillowatt. It has Trace. It has Magic Guard. Has high HP, decent defenses. It's just a really cool Pokemon. And Electric Campus reminds me of it, kind of in a sense. And yeah, it has really good. It's just really good. You want to use it. And then there's Electric Campus Male, which takes the defensive aspects of Electric Campus, and then it's like, no thank you, sir. I will just use Parental Bond to set up two Rapid Spins, which gives me plus 2 speed, and then plus 4 speed, and then I use Charge Beam, which gives me, more and more and more special attack, and this thing basically sets up by attacking you, and it takes a while to completely set up, but on a very distressed team, I could see this thing being, very, An already whittled down team, I can see Electro Camp is tearing through things, but honestly, the fact that it has Water Stab isn't the main problem, it's the fact that it has Electric Stab. I guess Water Stab complements the fact that Electric Stab can't hit shit like, I don't know, I can't hit Salamence, so yeah, it has Scald, if you really want to try and switch in a ground type to this thing, which is why it's so scary, is because it has Scald, and is an Electric type, which stabs Scald. It's just it's just a really interesting Pokemon and does really well in this tier, and I really like it. So, yeah, it's a defensive Pokemon, and it's able to spew off moves, and it's an excellent pivot. It's an excellent setup sweeper. It's Electric Campus, though it's better as a pivot. And then there's Geoshard. Recently, I got Alyssa pissed off because I thought Geoshard was weak, and then I realized that it has screens. Oh my god, it has screens. I wouldn't say it's one of the best Pokemon in the tier, but it's kind of getting up there nowadays. The fact that it has screens allows it to be used on the screens offensive, and which I haven't really seen as a team format in a while. And Geoshard doesn't really switch into stuff well. It doesn't really take a lot from, or takes way too much from attacks. And while it is one of the fastest Pokemon in the tier, it can't really, it just can't take attacks, even with screens, because you just throw up the wrong screen and you die instantly. It also has a lot of other defensive moves, Shard Explosion, which is its signature. Basically, it leaves, it does a teleport, which doesn't really work on Geoshard due to the fact that it's fucking Geoshard. And, yeah, it just leaves and leaves behind a spike as it leaves. A singular spike. It's not three, it's just one. And, that's fine, I guess. I guess one spike matters. Um, but yeah, I've come around on Geoshard. It's really cool. I recently run Flash Cannon as a fourth move, Shard Explosion, dual screens, and Flash Cannon, and that's able to hit Tynoso for a good chunk of its HP while uninvested, which is it's definitely something. Also, yeah, you could run Rocky Helmet or Light Screen. Honestly, depends on your set. If you're running screens, run Light Clay, but if you're running anything else, run Rocky Helmet. The double chip is able to tear apart Pokemon like Corotreck, who are usually really hard to answer, but then Geoshard exists, which, resists both of its Twig Pendants. It's 260 base power moves, and it just kind of eats it. And then both of them hit it back for, the 1/8 from Rocky Helmet, and then it just loses a lot of HP by attacking Geoshard. So, yeah, this thing's really good at countering Corotreck, I guess. And then Flash Cannon hits it back and basically KOs it. So, yeah, Corotreck fucking dies in 4K. Geoshard's really cool. Next up on my list, Gothitelle Alario. I've used this thing a couple times, and it's really neat. Basically, its ability is able to block pivots. They just aren't used at all. It makes it immune to U-turn, which is great for a Psychic Dark type, which is usually its weakness. But this thing is so cool because it has defensive. It's really defensive too. So this Medusa-looking thing is able to, spam its support moves like Glare, or I believe it has screens. Yeah, it has both screens. It's able to Parting Shot on you. It's able to Future Sight. It has Trick. It has Taunt. It has Teleport. It has Wish. It has so much it can do. And that's it's also on top of the fact that it is immune to pivot moves. It just straight up makes them fail. So, yeah, and it also has a really good defensive typing outside of its four thing. It's a Dark type and a Psychic type, meaning that you could take on poison types, which is really interesting. Yeah, this Pokemon is just really interesting. It's a really good support Pokemon, and there's not much else to say. I haven't used it much. Yeah. Next up is Hoptops. Hoptop. I've kind of looked over this thing a couple times. It honestly isn't my thing, but it looks, in theory, to be really powerful. It's frail, but it makes up for it in the fact that it's immune to hazards with Side Hop. but that isn't the really interesting part of it. Like being able to be immune to Pokemon spamming Surf or Earthquake is already it's really cool, right? You can switch into Salamence, which is already really cool, but the main thing the Hopadops is able to haul ass for is personally is actually Iron Fist. It is the only Pokemon that's here with Iron Fist, and most of its moves are punching moves. This includes the fact that it has Comet Punch. And yeah, you run a punching glove with that. And let's see. Yeah, so Comet Punch is 18 power. Uh, is punching glove or Iron Fist. I believe, Punching Glove and Iron Fist do stack. So yeah, so that's 18 x 1.2. Okay, that's 21.6 power. 21.6 x 1.1. It has around, after all the calcs are done, that brings up Comet Fist to 25 power. And then, yeah, that's some interesting tech right there. It also has Focus Punch, so it can just blast somebody with, stab, Focus Punch, if you really want to, fuck people up. But, okay, whatever. But that's if you're running an Iron Fist set. There's also Side Hop, which basically allows it to choice band and do whatever. Close Combat, Double Edge, Bullet Punch, Fake Out, the 3 punching moves so it can hit different defensive profiles. Which is really interesting. The punching moves in this tier are phenomenal because they're able to hit Pokemon like that, aren't normally hit by a lot of people. Like Thunder Punch, for example, hits Bershana, and all the Pokemon that have Thunder Punch are immediately better for having Thunder Punch because they can hit Bershana. And then I guess there's also Fire Punch if you want to hit Kupooch. But again, a Thunder Punch hits Kupooch, but is blocked by, ground types. So, yeah, Hopadops is interesting. I haven't used it much. I don't really know its potential much, but on paper, it looks really interesting. That is, yeah. Lediary! I'm so sorry for that. Lediary is honestly one of my favorite Pokemon of the tier. It went from being considered one of the worst to, quite frankly, one of the best Pokemon in the tier. Mainly due to just how it works. Lediary is the only Pokemon with a Mega Evolution, and from that, it goes from kind of an okay bug type. I mean, it's just your average bug type whenever it evolves, to one of the coolest Pokemon in the tier. Mega Lediary. Okay, first let's go over what Comet Fist does, which is Mega Lediary's ability. It takes a punching move and it increases the power and makes it a special move, and then that's it. That's all Comet Fist does. It increases the power of punching moves and makes them special, which it sounds okay and all, and then you realize that Lediary is a fighting type with Quiver Dance and is able to set up so sorry. Is able to set up with Comet Fist or with Quiver Dance so they can hit shit with Drain Punch. So Quiver Dance, Drain Punch. Okay, what else can it run? Well, it needs to be able to hit 2 Pokemon in particular. Or really just one, if you want to be specific here. It needs to be able to hit like you're running Drain Punch, you're running Quiver Dance. What else do you want to run? Hidden Power Electric is a big one. That makes you able to hit Mershana for quad effective damage, and yeah, that does a lot right there. Especially after setup, I believe you need 4 Quiver Dances to break Mershana. But then again, you don't want to stay in too long because if air slash crits, you're fucked. Um, and then again, you shouldn't be attempting to quiver dance. Like you shouldn't be on your first two stages of dancing on Mershana. You just really want to, yeah. If your opponent can deny your sweep, it's not too powerful. But the fact that this thing can mimic Volcarona and the fact that it spams Drain Punch just all the time, but it's like a special Drain Punch. It's just a really interesting Pokemon. I really like it. Also has Focus Punch if you really want to be an asshole about it. Yeah, it has Quiver Dance. It has Roost if you really want to do that. Uh, Swords Dance if you want to get physical. Tailwind. Like, it has some really good utility, but, it's Quiver Dancer. So you really just want to Quiver Dance with this thing and then just leave. It does what Hop Flops does, but way cooler. Or, not Hop Flops. Archelaos. It does what they do, but way cooler. So yeah, I really like Lediary. Has some really unfound potential. I personally run Drain Punch, Hidden Power, Electric, and Giga Drain as like my go-to moves, but I've recently been experimenting with Fire Punch instead, so I can hit Pokemon like that would normally threaten my ass, like I don't know, Cactarimba, Unaware Cactarimba. It stops Lediary. That's its biggest thing. So yeah, that is Lediary is the Pokemon of all time. I really like it. That is really pathetic Pokemon. And then we have Magearna. This thing comes straight from hell, just like original Magearna. Uh, this thing has the most special attack out of anything in the tier. It has some of the best stab out of everything in the tier with Earth Power. It has access to basically the elemental punches, but as special moves with Flamethrower and Bolt Beam. Um, it has a bunch of different defensive utility things, but mainly the thing that you want to be scared about is the fact that Magearna is fat. It is really fat, and if it kills something, it gets fatter, so it's harder to revenge kill than most Pokemon. But again, it's really, really weak to chip damage. Like, sure, it has Parting Shot, it has a bunch of defensive stuff like Taunt and Stealth Rocks, it has Roar, Thunder Wave, U-Turn. It doesn't have Volt Switch. It has a really nice defensive typing. Same one as Titanoso, but I'll get to Titanoso. It has Heal Bell. It just has a lot of different stuff. Oh, and it has Defog and Agility if you want to set up that. Along Clear Smog. I already talked about Encore. Yeah, this thing is just really, really cool. And then you realize that it really should just be running an offensive set. So, yeah, this thing's really hard to revenge kill, and it hits like a truck. It's like Dracocade, but if Dracocade was Magearna, and Magearna is scary, so yeah, that's already kind of a problem. Enough of my completely biased rant about Magearna. I'm scared of this thing. That is it. That's my thoughts on it, and I'm scared of it. Next up is geez, where is it? The Bird Mag Pillage. I was hinting at this thing earlier a lot, but Mag Pillage is a really unique Pokemon because it's able to shut down defensive Pokemon by having a Fire Stab move that inflicts Taunt. Just period. That's what it does. It clicks the move, and it has Stab on it, so it does a lot of damage. And it's a special attacker, and then the opponent's taunted, so they can't do anything. They can't really, you can't really have defensive utility against this thing. Like, you can't play around it because the fact that it taunts you immediately. And along with this, you can't knock off its heavy-duty boots. So, you can shut it down with rocks because it has Sticky Hold. Yeah. It can do a lot of, it can do a lot of different stuff. What the fuck? Sorry, I was looking at a weird defensive or weird thing. I don't know. I got a weird DM I'm about something probably Terraria related. Um, yeah, Mag Village is able to do basically whatever it wants, whenever it wants, however it wants, because of just how funny cackling cacophony is. Or I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just gonna call it cackle. Mag Village's cackle is so absurd that it's able to shut down defensive Pokemon immediately, and they can't do anything about it. While it can't really threaten them, it can shut them down, and it can do a lot against Circuit. It can Circuit in particular. It can Hurricane it straight up. It has Will-O-Wisp. It has Switcheroo, which you have Sticky Hole. You can just permanently steal somebody's item. It has Roost. It has Protect. It has Substitute. Whirlwind. It has a lot going for it. Corrosive Gas, which is okay in its tier, and it's on a good Pokemon with for it. So, yippee! Air Slash, if you really want to crit people. Yeah, this Pokemon's just really good. Oh, and the unique tech of Tar Shot, where you can drop somebody's speed and make them weak to your funny cacophony there. So you drop somebody's speed, they're weak to fire, and you force them to switch, and then you taunt them, and then you make them weak to fire and slower, and then they switch, and it's just an endless cycle until you could, put yourself in a good position for your setup sweeper to go ham. Also, it stops setup sweepers. This thing is the Swiss Army knife of Pokemon, and I goddamn love it. The bird. I should probably make an Angry Birds reference next time and make a team with this. And name it after Mag Village. It's just really, really funny. And I did try and suggest that it should get Scorching Sand so it can do something against Salamence, but or against Salamence sets running I don't know, Flash Fire. Also, Steelworker, Molten Slam is good and all, but you should be running Flash Fire. That's it's just run Flash Fire, man. It's really good. Allows you to look in the face of of that one Pokemon. And then we have Moderno. This thing is the niche gimmick of niche gimmicks, and I'm gonna go use the restroom before I talk about Moderno. I guess that's fitting because of just the fact that I am mimicking Blade's kicking content with the sound recording that I'm probably going to turn into a video. Okay, bathroom break. I have returned to talk about Moderno now. Moderno is a normal ghost type with trace. I mean, it has aerialate, it has curse body. Okay, those are cool, I guess. But it has trace, and then you realize that it also has facade. And most of the tier is filled with poison healers, or at least the main three that you want to worry about, like the big stallies that you want to set up against, are poison healers. And then something clicked into place after I realized that. Like I originally thought like, oh, what is this guy gonna do? Right? He's gonna block rapid spin, I guess, and then set up. Not only does this guy block rapid spin, but then he takes advantage of the people who normally use rapid spin to set up and then kill them really fast. This thing only like poison heal makes it absurdly bulky, and the fact that it's able to set up a Swords Dance and then click Rock Slide, and then click Facade, and then click Poltergeist, which it has, by the way. It can click Rock Slide against Circuit and a lot of other Pokemon in the tier. But yeah, Moderno is really absurdly powerful if you know how to use it, and it's kind of a gimmick due to the fact that it requires such a niche setup, but due to how niche the setup is in the tier, or the niche setup in the tier being everywhere, you can find so many opportunities. You can even find it against Kupooch, which is really weird. You can trace Magic Guard and then use that on a Kupooch switching out, which you're going to take a chunk of it because, you know, you're not exactly the most defensive with 70-65 on the special defensive side. But yeah, you're able to find the opportunity and put on a Toxic Orb, switch into Electric Campus, and then you just start healing. Electric Campus flips out and switches out. You already have enough Swords Dances, and you're already fast enough to sweep. So you just go fucking ham. You just destroy everything. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a really neat set, and I really like how Modern No just works. So yeah, it's a really interesting mon. Otherwise, it just seems to be a Gen 1 mon. It has Shadow Bone, it has some other moves. I wish it had a good enough special attack to use properly. But yeah, Mono is just really cool. I really like it. And it has some really niche purposes. But yeah. Then we have Regigigas. Okay, I'm sorry for comparing the Moth to Regigigas, but I cannot understand how this thing works. I don't know how Sphinx's Riddle works, and I honestly don't want to know. All I know is you're supposed to click Quiver Dance on for 2 turns, and then you sweep for the next 3, and then you switch it out. Or you click Quiver Dance until you just feel like it, I guess. But yeah, basically, this Pokemon is supposed to be the ultimate Quiver Dancer, but also have a bit of a downside in the fact that it has problems. It has a lot of problems. So yeah, it's a bug type. It's a steel type in the tier full of steel types, which is kind of already bad. It has Scorching Sand that deals Salamence, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I don't. Oh yeah, and Earth Power because the Sphinx Moth. Haha, Moth. I'm really disappointed by this thing. I'm not going to talk about it much. I haven't really used it, so I'm not going to dog on something that I don't really know much about. Mershana! Oh my god, Mershana. Uh, this thing has a lot of utility. It has Flip Turn, it has Defog, it has Draining Kiss, it has Roost and Slack Off, both of them. Uh, yeah, basically, Mershana has Neutralizing Gas, and then it uses that to be the most annoying defensive Pokemon to ever exist. The only thing that you can really counter it with is electric types, and there's not exactly a lot of electric types in the tier. You have to rely on stuff like Thunderbolt coverage and Thunder Punch coverage, and that's how you do with Mershana, and that's it. That's like the only real way to consistently KO this thing. Uh, Otherwise, it's really fat. It works as a pivot. It works as a wall. It works as a defogger. It's just really versatile, and it does a lot of things at once. If you want, you could try and run a Misty Surge set, but I don't really see, that being used in this tier because of just, you know, I've seen it used once to great effect, but I still beat him, so whatever. Uh, yeah, Misty Surge is definitely a thing. It also has Natural Cure if you want to, be that one. But yeah, it's just a really defensive Pokemon that has ability that shuts down a good portion of the tier, and it's just really strong. It has Air Slash, it has Surf. It's just really good. It's just really good. I don't know what else to say about it. It's fat and it does things well. Moving on. Oristal. I don't know how to feel about this thing. I think it's supposed to be an offensive pivot, but also a defensive pivot. I don't know how to feel about it. It has a really mismatched move set that I think is supposed to play around the fact that it's really bulky, but it doesn't have reliable recovery. But it also, I don't get it. I don't get this Pokemon, and I'm not going to try and talk about something I don't get outside of the fact that it has Intimidate and it has Rapid Spin, and it's really hard to break. The horse. Paladon? Paladon? I think it's Paladon or something. It spams multi-hit moves and has Technician. That's pretty much it. And it's also the fastest Pokemon in the tier. Uh, that's it. That's how it works. There's not much to it. I mean, it has other set potential, but the main thing is just it spams Technician moves and it's really really fast, and it usually two-shot stuff, which makes it a really good revenge killer for Pokemon that are already chipped. It also has Spikes and Taunt if you want to be that one. The Rapid Spin's more common because just better defensive Pokemon have Rapid Spin. So, yeah. Next up on my list is Pumble. Uh, I don't get Pumble either. It's a special attacker. Okay, cool. It has a decent speed tier, I guess, for the tier being at 70, which is faster than Salamence and Scoresmith, which it wants to kill Scoresmith, but I'll get the Scoresmith. Dark Pulse, yeah, it basically just has all the offensive utility or that Gothitelle had, but it has Natural Cure instead, and I guess could be used as a pivot because of the Natural Cure. Like it's able to throw off moves and then leave. But it also has Preordained, which is gives the effects of Anticipation, Forewarn, and Frisk all at once, and then Future Sight and Doom Desire deal more damage, which is kind of good. This thing doesn't have Doom Desire, which is kind of sad, but yeah, this is a really cool Pokemon on paper, but I don't really get how it would work in game. Moving on, we have Pikumiku. I recently submitted a thing where I think that Pikumiku and the two other Pokemon should get Purify, but I mainly mean Pikumiku, and I just threw in the other ones because I think people really like those two Pokemon. But yeah, Pikumiku is really really cool. It's uh it's a fat Pokemon. There's a lot of fat Pokemon in this tier, but it's a fat poison Pokemon that has Unaware and along with immunity to water and in Storm Drain, and it also has it has really good coverage. It has Recover, and it's a really unique Pokemon. I really like it. Taunt, Toxic Spikes. It feels like something that would be really really powerful if the meta was based around um. Oh yeah, and then it can Jinx Poison Healers, which is really interesting. Jinx is basically Fairy type Shock, which is really good. This Pokemon's really good. It has some really unique defensive utility. It I mean, it's really cute. It has a unique typing. It's just a really unique Pokemon. I haven't used this enough to really say if it's good or bad, but people seem to think it's bad, probably because it has 5 speed. But oh well. I really like it. Oh yeah, and Mortal Spin is able to, be Mortal Spin, and then it can jinx those Pokemon. So yeah, I really like Pikamiku. I just don't really know how I should use it. Religion. This is the funniest meme Pokemon to ever exist. It is a ball, and it starts rolling, and it will not stop, but it also has a really fucking low speed tier. And oh my god, there's a lot to talk about this Pokemon because it has a moveset the size of the sun, and a really high defensive stat, but or defense and HP, but it also has 42 special defense. So yeah, I think the funniest, I don't take this Pokemon seriously. Like if I wanted to take it seriously, I'd give it a complete redesign, honestly, because Giant Murder Ball is not something that I would like to say like, oh, that is a serious Pokemon in this tier. No, this Pokemon isn't serious. The user was basically just like Giant Murder Ball, and that's how it works. And yeah, and I really, yeah. Insert Sisyphus joke here. This thing is like using Sisyphus, but I think the funniest set I've ever come up with is Fear, which I forgot the reason why the acronym is called Fear, but you could just replace the Rattata in Fear with Religion, and then it's perfect. This thing has Endeavor. This thing, you could set it to level 1. It has Endeavor. It has, yeah, it has Endeavor, and it has Quick Attack. I don't think it has a better move for priority besides Quick Attack, but it has Quick Attack, and it also has Spiny Shield, and has Nuzzle. And run out of level 1, run it with, like, a, choice, or a Focus Sash, and you can just guarantee a KO on whoever you want. Is It is the Fearmon. It's so funny. This thing is so funny. It's the funniest Pokemon in the tier, and I hot speed. Fucking love this thing. Um, Otherwise, I think it's just supposed to be a defensive rapid spinner. It has inertia, which means it can gain speed upon being hit, and it also has stabilize, which you lose all of your speed, but you gain a lot of defense, so you can spam body press with that. It's just a really unique Pokemon, and I really like it. It's just a meme though. So yeah. Next up is, I believe it's Salackle. Salackle. Salackle was originally a big buff guy, and now he's a femboy. um, but yeah, it's like a weird mononymous version of Salazzle, and it's a guy instead of a girl. But it probably shows more feminine traits than Salazzle, which is big dommy mommy. So whatever. Um, Salackle is a little funny guy. He's a funny guy. Uh, Basically, it has dry skin, and if you run ability shield, that means you can block Marshana, and you switch into Marshana, and then you start clicking Quiver Dance. The only thing you can do is click Air Slash or just leave, and by the time you're done, goodbye. There's almost nothing that can switch into Stab besides Salamence, and yeah, that's it. That's basically how this Pokemon works. It sets up and it kills your team. The only Pokemon that really, you know, like threatens this thing is Salamence because of the ground stab and the fact that it's immune to both of its stabs. And its ability to kill Marshana being in Thunder Punch. But then again, you could just run Gunk Shot and then kill it with that. It also has Drain Punch if you want to punch Salamence. I'd recommend that, honestly. Drain Punch, so you can punch Salamence, running Flash Fire, and then just kill everything, honestly. Is a reverse Salazzle, and it's so funny. This thing is so funny. I love it. So, yeah, that's Salackle. And then, speaking of, we have Salamence. It is... Oh my god, this thing was designed by Alyssa probably to be the scariest thing to ever exist ever, period. And it is terrifying. Fighting Salamence is like fighting a Dark Souls boss. And honestly, I envision this thing like a Dark Souls boss in my head. It, big old suit of armor, 2 arms, or 4 legs, 2 arms coming out where the wings should be, but like they're big old arms they can use to construct stuff. Uh, it's suited and whatnot. It's supposed to barely resemble Salamence, but out of the entire line, it's supposed to resemble Salamence the most. It's just a really interesting Pokemon. It has a really unique move set, and probably the best stab move to ever exist, which is a Steel type move that can hit Steel types. Yeah, and it has Earthquake to top it off. So yeah, this thing defines the meta with its just sheer offensive presence, and then it also is a defensive Pokemon because of its absurd bulk. The fact that it has Will-O-Wisp, it has uh, spikes, it can sub on you, it has Recover, which is insane. Like, this Pokemon's insane. It has Coil, it can set up on you. They nerfed this thing day one in the day one patch because of just how absurd this thing getting speed boost was. By the way, it lost Flame Charge. That was the patch. That was like people were really like you should fear Salamence, honestly. If played around well enough, Salamence isn't that much of a problem. Mainly just bring a water type. Bring a water type. They can't do much. Like Thunderfang doesn't do much. But yeah, Salamence is scary, and you should fear Salamence as much as you fear Mershana or Kubuch. Possibly more. I love the Pokemon, but oh my god, it's so scary. This thing is terrifying, and you do not want to fight it on its terms. Because on its terms, it's going to click Molten Slam on a good portion of your team, and there's nothing you can do about it. Literally nothing you can do. It's a really scary Pokemon, and frankly is probably like there's a good reason that if Alaria had a champion, they'd use a Salamence because this thing makes Metagross look, like less bulky than it is. I wonder what an Alarian Metagross would be like because this thing lost its ability to fly, but instead gained the certainty of steel. Would Metagross like revert to her primal state? No, what? I'm thinking out loud here. I'll come up with a Theorymon version of this later. Probably going to be a Rock Dragon type, but whatever, that's just me. So yeah, that is Salamence. Salamence is cool, and I really like it in this tier. So, yeah. Great job with that one, Alyssa. Then we have Scoresmith, which is basically the thing that's going to crunch Salamence's armor in half. It has smithing, which makes it immune to steel moves, and it gains a +1 whenever hit by them. So Steel Beam, +1. Molten Slam, +1. Flash Cannon from Geoshard, +1. That's like the move they would least expect, but it takes a good chunk out of Tyanoso, so whatever. Scoresmith has smithing, and it has the same speed to your Salamence, and has stab close combat. That is basically all you need to know. It switches in the Salamence, kills it instantly. If you're running Scarf, which you probably should because of just how powerful this Pokemon is. Like, sure, you can set up with, like Air Balloon, but if Salamence is running any other stab besides its 2, or if it's running any other attacking moves besides its stab, it can just hit you and then follow up with moves. But then again, Bulk Up, Air Balloon is also a set, I guess. Allows you to set up and then sweep, but then again, Mershana exists, and there's not a lot you can do against. Oh wait, no, you have Thunder Punch. What do you do against a set? I guess like a faster Pokemon. This guy doesn't have Flame Charge, right? No, he has Flame Charge. Well, there's always Gale Wings, Tempest Arrow, and it crits most of the time. So, oh well, yeah. This thing either sets up or just kills you outright. So. Yeah, it's a really scary Pokemon. I really like Scoresmith. Next up is Pokemon that I don't like, which is Circuit. I don't like this thing because it is a poison healer that poisons things that probably shouldn't be poisoned, like your poison or steel type. And then it also gives them some type of secondary effect, like exhausting venom. Sure, it decreases both their attacks, but they're also now more defensive, just period. But that doesn't matter, because both of their attacks were decreased, and what can they do against you? There's a couple Pokemon that can really just ruin this guy's day, one of them being Moderno. Modern has Rock Slide, so it can switch in and start setting up. And like, what is it gonna do, right? Like, what? Clicking, not Enraging Venom. It was either Enraging or Befuddling Venom. There we go. If you click Befuddling Venom, shit hits the fan because now you're encored into that, and then they can switch into somebody like Marshana, and now you're, you know, dancing on a Marshana and whatever. Just Circuit is annoying. That's basically its purpose, but there's some Pokemon more annoying, and I'll get to that. Um, I don't like this thing mainly because I don't know how to use it. I don't know. It's Circuit. It can stall things, it traps them, and it stalls them out with poison, and that's pretty much it. It's a poison bug, or it's a bug dragon, same as Dracocade, but it does the poison part a little cooler, I guess. Versus Dracocade, which is a big old centipede, big old monster centipede thing. I love it. Uh, Sorry if I sound more deranged the more I talk. I've been doing this for Jesus, yeah, hour and a half. Wow. Um. Okay, next up is Shrimpact. Shrimpact. It's I wish I had physical moves or physical stuff because if I had physical coverage instead of special, like sure, it's a pistol shrimp, it's supposed to shoot things, but um it has some of the best offensive uh coverage in the game, or at least in this tier. Like it has flip turn, it has liquidation, it has Mach Punch on a technician Pokemon, Dream Punch, close combat. Yeah, but it's also a really good special attacker. And the fact that it has Seafoam Shootout, which basically, if it goes first, it hits an extra time, but it shoots twice and does, you know, more damage because this Pokemon has Technician. It's just a really cool Pokemon. Oh, and it is a viable use of Vacuum Wave, which is a really rare thing to find, but it's really cool. So, yeah, this Pokemon's really cool. I have yet to really master it because it's newer, but Magpillage, on the other hand, is just a monster. You don't really need to master it. You click one move and you're done. Um, yeah, this thing is surprisingly bulky, um, and it hits hard, and you set up a rapid spin and then start killing things. I've seen it used on rain teams as like basically the end game setup sweeper. It's just really powerful, and I really like it. But I don't know how to use it. Soil Links. This thing's supposed to be Landorus. I know Katra made it. Uh, Me and Katra go a little bit back, but yeah, this thing was basically built to be Landorus. But basically have all the utility of a Landorus, but not have its attack stat. And then Alyssa was like, well, what if I give it attack? And now it's kind of in a weird place. Um, it has a bunch of defensive utility, and it can compete with Hedgehog for its role in existence, but it can't poison heal, and that's the only thing holding it back. I guess it could shore up with or use a Sandstream Syrup set, but you're missing out on Intimidate then. So yeah, there's not a lot to talk about. It's just a really cool defensive Pokemon. It has Taunt, Super Fang, Super Fang. That is, I forgot about that. It has Super Fang, which is really cool because it's able to just have somebody's HP and they can do nothing about it unless they're a Ghost type. Spikes, Stealth Rocks, Shore Up, Knockoff, Encore. It's just annoying. It's just really annoying, and it's really funny because of it. Um, Next up is Solzilla. It it spews off a really funny. It basically runs Assault Vest and Regenerator, and it's just fat. It's really fat, and it throws out really powerful moves, and it doesn't die because it has a Regenerator, and that's it. Except it does die because the moment it's hit with a physical move, it just crumbles instantly. Which I guess is fitting because this Pokemon is kind of a big old facade of Solosis trying to be big and mean and scary. But yeah, this thing isn't really defensive in any way. Like I guess you could run a defensive set, but yeah, it's just really funny. I don't really know Silzilla that well. I just know that my Pokemon, I'll get to them, is just able to just defensively check it in a lot of ways. There's not a lot Silzilla can do against him. and they kind of act as a counter. Taboo Cat spams moves, and it's really cool. It can't use the same move twice, but it's just really good at spamming moves. Like, both of its offensive stats are through the roof because of improv jazz, and it's able to just cycle through different moves, and all of the different moves do different things, and it has really unique coverage with what it can do. It has dark stab. It has fake out stab, so you can open up a fake out and then start spamming moves. It's just really unique. It's a really unique Pokemon, and yeah, that's it. I don't really have much to say about this. I've used it a couple times. Run Assault Vest. I've run, uh, yeah, basically Assault Vest. I really like Assault Vest on this Pokemon. I mean, it already has a really good special defensive stat, but with Assault Vest, is able to switch in reliably and then start spamming moves. So, yeah. But that was biased because, again, I have my Pokemon. Tamvoid is, or I'm just gonna call it Tammy. Tammy here is one of the scariest things that ever exist. It is. This is what happens when you give a fox a gun. This thing is a defensive, fire fairy type, which is doesn't sound scary until you realize it has magic bounce. It is one of the. It has Moonblast. It has Flamethrower. It is resists a surprising amount of things. It has a bunch of utility moves. It has Wish, and it has Teleport, and it's completely scary. And I don't want to talk about it for too long. It's supposed to be like a white tiger. That's all I really know about it. Um, yeah, it's just really scary, and I'm not really sure what the consensus on the best set for it is because it can run a lot of different things. Because like it has Calm Mind, it has all the utility moves, and then it has a bunch of really powerful special attacks while also having one of the best special attacks in the tier. This Pokemon's just a lot. Tynoso, I helped design the current iteration of what it's supposed to look like. I have yet to make a sprite for it, but I plan on making a sprite for it. It's fat, and it does a lot of things. It's way too fast for its own good, because it's just really, really fast. It has the nickname Cocaine Bear for a reason. It can run a lot of different sets. It has a lot of different attacking moves. It's a mixed attacker. Um, but a lot of people just run special because of how powerful Moonblast is. It has Heal Bell, it has Wish, it has Taunt, it has Yawn, it has just a bunch of different stuff. This thing's supposed to be related to Ursa Luna, but it's like a far future version of it where like it's kind of the primordial protector of the Earth. Basically, Tynoso is a big old god bear, and it's scary, and just do not fight it. It's supposed to be the pseudo legendary, besides Larian Salamence, and I just really like it. It's a really fat Pokemon, and it's really good at that, honestly. And you should probably look out for it because Longfit being fat is able to spew off moves. So yeah, and then we have Torstede. It's a turtle. It summons weathers, and it uses those weathers for its own good. I guess it has rocks and can spin. Has shore up, yawn. It's just really good. I don't really have much else to say about it. I mean, I've seen there's like this one person that I keep fighting, Katra, that keeps running Metal Burst on it, which like I guess it works, but it doesn't sometimes because you can just kind of leech seed it. Oh well, or just KO it outright with close combat. But it is really defensive, so do watch out. Typhlosion Alaria. I haven't used this thing much, but basically it's if P-Train gained wheels, it is a defensive. It's not very defensive, but it has Polished, which is basically inertia, but has a better name. Basically, let's see. It has bulk up, and if you hit it, it gets faster, and it has fire and steel moves and body press and earthquake. I don't really see it doing much else because, like, I mean, Shadow Claw and Zen Headbutt and Thunder Punch. I guess Thunder Punch is good, but it has Recover. Basically, this thing's supposed to be a setup sweeper, but It's kind of outclassed by other set of sweepers, and I don't really know how to feel about it. Uh, because of just how weak its typing is for this tier. There's a lot of things to deal with steel types, and there's a lot of things to deal with fire types in this tier. So there's not a lot you can really do with this guy, which is kind of sad because he's a really cool concept. Vegehog. I kind of mentioned him earlier when I was talking about Pikumiku and who should get Purify. This was one of those Pokemon. Uh, Vegehog is really, really cool. It has a bunch of utility, and it has Stockade, or Stockpile, which makes it able to kind of set up and then start sweeping because of how bulky it is, because of Poison Heal. But again, you can use this guy. You can use Moderno to switch in and start setting up. And while it doesn't take a lot from knockoff, or it takes a bit from knockoff, it just continues to heal because you gave it a Toxic Orb, and it just keeps going. Yeah. So Vegehog is really cool, but it has some you know fatal flaws in the fact that it's not perfect. Like its defense stat is 75. Um, but yeah, it has a lot of utility, and yeah, it's just a really cool Pokemon. Yeah, it has Yeah, it's one of this tier's rapid spinners. It has knockoff, rocks and spikes, spiky shield, superpower, and that's not a utility move. It's just superpower. Slack off. On a poison healer. By the way, this is the only poison healer for reliable recovery. Uh, Besides maybe Circuit. No, Circuit doesn't have it either. Uh, Protect to guarantee your poison heal. Just Earthquake for stab, facade. Oh yeah, it has facade. It has stab facade. I keep forgetting about that. But yeah, Vegehog is just really cool. Um, but again, it doesn't really deal with Ceramimic that well, outside of Ceramimic just being defensive. This thing used to be the king of the tier, and it's called Ventriloquist, or Ventriloquist. It's based off I said I was going to help out with the sprite, but I never did. I kind of feel bad about it. But basically, Velt is a funny velvet worm that decided, oh, I'm going to be the puppet from FNAF, and it became the puppet from FNAF. Originally, it had Prankster, and it spammed Prankster Destiny Bond and occasionally ran screens, and was just complete terror, and then they gave him immunity and made it more of a trapper. So yeah, it's able to trap Pokemon now, and it's more of an offensive trapper rather than a defensive one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the story, I guess. People think it's good. I personally don't really know why I'd use it, but I really like it, honestly. Like, the design is really cool. I don't really see why I'd use it nowadays, outside of just it being a defensive ghost type, and how powerful Shadow Ball is, generally. It has ice coverage, so you can hit the card thing whenever it gets unbanned. Yeah, this Pokemon's really cool. Uh, it just got nerfed into the ground and is now just a complete different Pokemon that I have to relearn. And then we get to my personal one that I made myself. We have a local cult leader, Weaving Wonder. This thing is it has two abilities, and none of them play into what it does in the metagame, which is be a fucking pest. It is the spider that will cripple your team in the worst ways imaginable. It has gastroacid, it has taunt, it has knockoff, it has hazards, it has sticky web, being the only Pokemon in the tier of sticky web. It has strength sap, it has pursuit, which was what this Pokemon is designed around. It was a pursuit trapper with a shit ton of utility, and it has knockoff, it has poison stab, allowing it to hit Pokemon like Tynoso for super effective damage. Fell Stinger if you want to sweep. I recently theory crafted with Kasher about a possible special set that this thing could run, but it's so niche with how it would work that I don't really see it working, because it would rely on photosynthesis proccing on special attack instead of all the other stats, which is a really, really weird thing to set up, but is technically possible. So, whatever. It has Sucker Punch, it has Swords Dance, Taunt, Substitute. Every Pokemon, or every move on this Pokemon is so deliberate and stupid that I honestly feel bad for including it in the metagame, because of just how many sets that I accidentally gave this thing the ability to run, and how many different utility moves that I can use to completely disrupt the game. And, yeah, I accidentally made a mini cult, as in one person and a couple people who can tolerate the person. Oh my god, okay. Enough aside, Weaving Wonder is an asshole and will just bully your team into submission. That is basically what they do. They don't directly attack your team for absurd damage. No, no, no. That is for wimps. If it tries doing that, it's immediately outclassed by Ampharay with its speed and attack, and it can become the fastest Pokemon in the tier without setup on period. But that's only for the first turn that it's in, or at least the first instance that it's in. And yeah. Otherwise, this Pokemon was just I really liked designing it, and I want to do more for the tier. But I'm completely unhinged, and my next plan is more unhinged than the last. Um, and that and Alyssa basically you know is completely annoyed by me and Catra's presence. So oh well. Or I guess the entire mod team at this point, because because of Catra talking about Weaving Wonder, you're like, you can only talk about whatever. Uh, that's just internal drama, though, for anybody seeing this on YouTube, if I even upload it. Yeah, this is Weaving Wonder. I created this thing. It has a better sprite, but yeah, this was yeah, Weaving Wonder is definitely a Pokemon. It's an annoying one at that. Zeppelin, Zeppelin, Zeppelin. The second to last on the tier, and it's just an evolved version of Drifblim with better utility, but it loses the one move that I probably run on this Pokemon, or the one ability, and that is Flare Boost. It gains Light Metal instead for some reason, but Flare Boost basically would allow this thing to be a really potent special attacker, similar to that of Alarian, Alarian, or not Alarian, just Kupooch. But Zeppelin here can't really do that, and it kind of sucks. But yeah, Zeppelin is really cool because it has a move set the size of possibly the sun, but a lot of it seems to be filler, which just moves that Drifblim already knew. But yeah, this is just a really cool Pokemon. I just don't know how to use it, honestly. It's just one of those Pokemon I don't know how to use, and I don't really know how to talk about it. So I don't know. That's my take on Zeppelin. It's just really cool. I just don't know how to use it, and I'd rather use the Eviolite on Drifblim because I know Drifblim. And then we get to the last, but certainly least, because of just calcs and whatnot. Sorry, my poor little baby. Theoretically, this is one of the most powerful Pokemon in the tier. It has stored power, and it has Shell Smash, and that's what it does. In practice, there's enough of a specially defensive presence in the tier that this thing can kind of just bug off, literally. Um, it is just kind of here. Like, there's like the possibility of using it as a pivot, but it's too frail for that. And like it's one of the Pokemon in the tier with no stats over 100. And while Tinted Lens would normally carry it, some Pokemon are just so defensively powerful that this thing does not instantly KO it, and then gets KO'd in return because of just the nature of just Shell Smash. Yeah, just Shell Smash, stored power, and then probably something so it can hit more powerful Pokemon for super effective damage, or Pokemon that are like Weaving Wonder and whatnot. Like, it probably would run Bug Buzz for that. Or it doesn't have a ground move, but yeah, it's one of the only Pokemon that. Oh wait, no, it has Mudshot. That exists, I guess, but it probably doesn't do more than, like, I don't know, Bug Buzz. But yeah, that's it. That's the entire tier. I just talked about the entire tier. Um, Jesus Christ, how long is this recording? It is. Wow, that is this thing doing numbers. I'm almost on 2 hours. This has been Charlie talking Wow, I just went over the. Yeah, I'm kind of in disbelief. I'm just gonna give my closing thoughts here. This tier is great. I love this tier. I probably need to, work on teams for the turn or for the current circuit going on, or not circuit, the Swiss tour, double elimination, whatever. Uh, so I can hopefully be the person that will get the chance to work with Alyssa on the next expansion. But honestly, that's just my own personal thing. Like I have plans and I want to fulfill them, but that's just me. This tier is great. Thank you for, I guess, listening to me ramble for around 2 hours for on a subject that I'm not really frequent on, but you know what? That's perfectly fine. I know Alyssa could probably go into a better rant about this than me, but yeah, this tier is great. It has some immediate flaws, but yeah, this is great. Thank you for listening, and have a good one.